Hey everybody, and welcome back to Veach Season. We are your guest hosts, Rocky Magaña and Kramer Sansone, coming to you live from the draft bunker, where we have been pulling 16 straight all-nighters, just watching nothing but hour upon hour of all 22 video.
Yep.
Just grinding it, just watching nothing but the equivalent of football porn, right? For draft prospects, like, but we're not, but like we're going like everything from like like the high grade, high production stuff like SEC all 22 tape to like down to like stuff that was filmed on like a Nokia flip phone.
That's some D3 schools, yeah.
Some real D3 grainy video,
Yep.
right? Where you gotta like squint really hard, and you're like,
it's like what they use for the moon landing. That's the kind of style we're looking at.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. It's like when you were a kid, like you're probably not old enough to remember like when you were like a kid and cable TV. This is like pre-streaming services. This is pre everything.
Oh, I just know cable. I was already born between then.
Yeah. But like you would like stay at like your friend's house, and like even if you did back in the day, even if you didn't have the channel because it was cable, because it was like pre-digital television, like the channel was still scrambled, and you could see like through the lines. You could like see the other channel, right? And like you would like stay at your buddy's house, and it'd be like midnight on a Saturday night, and it's like in Cinemax, and you're like, it's like Skinemax, and you're like, oh, bro, between the wavy lines, you were like, that's a tit. That was definitely a tit. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh man, I just saw a tit through the lines. And like that's when you're like that's not what it's like with watching these D3.
Oh players. Yeah,
you're like,
that's fair.
You're like, oh, that's a prospect. That's definitely. I just saw a sack, dude. Did you see the size of the sack on that guy? Oh my god, look at him go. And yeah, and so it's desperate. It's desperate out there. It's not all. It's not all like premium 1080 HD VR headset level entertainment out there. Some of it's grainy, looking through the wavy lines of your childhood style of watching it.
It's very true, very true. It's like the VHS, the camcorder that your mom used to have.
Yeah, it's like you're in your grandpa's basement, and you found like you saw like his bootleg VHS tapes that he's been like holding on to since the 70s, and then you're watching it one day, and you're just like, you're watching it, and you're like, man, this is really kind of low grade looking. Like it almost looks homemade. And then you're like, that lady looks familiar. And then you're like, all of a sudden your grandma comes in with like a cup of Kool-Aid for you, and you're like, those piercing blue eyes, I've seen those somewhere before. And then you look at the screen in horror, and you realize it is homemade. And your grandma just drops the cup of red Kool-Aid on the white carpet, and she's ruined for life. You're ruined for life. And
sounds like this happened to you, buddy.
I mean, no, me personally, like
this happened.
I mean, I'm not saying that it did, but I'm saying you don't end up like me overnight and on accident.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Very fair on that.
This doesn't happen as a mistake. like stuff like just by chance, like something happens for this to become this person behind this microphone to exist. And so
fantastic.
Yeah. And so it's and then you're scarred for childhood for life, and then
35 it's not like you're later, walking into. You shouldn't pop in a homemade video of it being basically like an X-rated film. At least you shouldn't pop that thing in, because that'd be insane. Actually,
that's what I was saying. That was what I was getting at.
Gotcha.
Just free as a grandma sitting there, free as a bird. Grandpa
go to town.
Grandpa just going to town, laying pipe, and you're like
being like the Crocky J,
Yeah, at first you didn't realize that he was giving her the Crocky J, or that the girl getting the Crocky J on the TV screen was old grandma.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, you saw those piercing baby blues, and you said, "Oh, there's no mistaking those blue eyes."
There's some puddles forming now.
Yeah, there's no escape. And then what's worse is that your dad didn't know that existed, and he walked in and it was his mom, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh man,
yeah, he's scarred for life.
Scarred for life. And I'm scarred for life. Grandma's scarred for life. And grandma's pissed at grandpa because she forgot that thing even existed.
Yeah. I thought you destroyed that.
Or he destroyed it, and in his defense, he never destroyed it, but he thought that he accidentally in a garage sale 15 years ago, and that some dude down the street bought it and had been holding on.
Can you imagine? That would be that would be a story right there. You go into a damn yard sale and you buy, hey, that's an old VHS. Says, oh, this one's a Christmas one. Hey, I'll buy this. Pop that thing in during around Christmas time. It's just a couple of old people is going at it.
Yeah. I remember so back in high school, I worked at Blockbuster Video, right, in high school.
Nice.
And there would be times where sometimes people would like bring back their DVDs with the wrong DVD inside of the case somehow, right? And it would be like people would straight up like things that you like, how did that even happen? Like they'd be like returning their like kids Blues Clues collection DVD to Blockbuster, and you'd open it up and it would be like a porn DVD. And you're like,
that's ridiculous.
You're like, how did that mix up happen there, Mrs. Johnson?
Can you imagine the people who went to buy the porno and they're watching Blues Clues?
Well, yeah, and then I was tasked. 18-year-old, or not even that point, probably 17-year-old Rocky is tasked with calling them on their home landline, because that's what's on their account, because this is pre everybody having cell phones, calling them on their home landline and explaining to whatever adult, Mr. or Mrs. Johnson, whoever answered the phone, the predicament of, oh, excuse me, yeah, you guys returned a copy of Blues Clues Greatest Hits Volume 3, and the wrong video DVD was on the inside. Yeah, it was the wrong one. It wasn't a Blues Clues DVD. Oh, what DVD was it? Oh, Caged Heat Part 7, a Warden's Desire or something like that. And you're like, oh God, like, yeah, and then half the time it was like, maybe like the husband who dropped it off and the wife didn't know that it existed, and then she'd be like, what? Or even worse, it'd be like their teenage kid was the one that was supposed to drop off the DVDs, and that 15-year-old knucklehead's the one that screwed it all up.
That's probably definitely the case.
And then mom and dad are super pissed because not only did the kid like watch that and have that, but it probably belonged to them, and he got into their collection, and now everybody knows what they're doing behind closed doors.
Fun fact: that's basically what happened to Butters in South Park. If you're a South Park nerd like myself, that's basically exactly happened to Butters, and he got scarred for life.
Yeah, and that's how Butters got the old Crocky J.
That's true.
You got Crocky J.
You got crocked.
Man, this is a great start to a show.
Yeah.
If we've ever had one. You wouldn't know that we're recording 30 minutes late today because I completely fell asleep while putting my kids down tonight.
I wasn't going to mention it.
And I woke up to my wife being like, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be recording a podcast tonight?" And text messages from Kramer being like, "Hey, did you good? Did you get kidnapped?"
I was actually going to I was going to call like literally in 45 minutes like pass. I'm like, okay, I don't really want to wake him up, but I might. But I just want to know if he's actually alive.
Yeah, like, is he dead? Like,
I haven't heard from you since noon today, so I'm like, all right, I haven't heard from him and since noon, so something could have happened.
I know he rarely sleeps, and he's like up all hours of the night, like either with babies or writing articles, and just is a complete insomniac. So, and like I said, he's been watching game film until he's completely dead-eyed, like just dead-eyed on the inside, like he has been watching like 50 hours of adult material, just completely soulless and like like you see some people,
open.
Yeah, the eyes are just dead and there's nothing behind them. You're just like, what did you see? Like, yeah, it's exactly like that. But no, I am. But you know what? 1 minute of talking to you, buddy, and I am snapped back, and we just fall right into our.
You're not gonna fall asleep tonight, buddy.
Our classic Veach season rhythm. No, I just took an hour-long nap.
That's impressive.
at 8 p.m. at night. Like that is I'm gonna be up until 6 a.m. I'm gonna watch the sunrise. It's been a while since I've seen the sunrise. I usually fall asleep right before the sun comes up. So looks like I might just climb on top of the tallest hill in Tampa and have a cup of coffee and
hey, why not?
And watch that old burning ball of fire, crest over the eastern horizon. Right, it rises in the east, sets in the west. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you did a good job. Good job.
Good. I didn't make a total ass of myself. There's not going to be like oh, we haven't had like a 5-star review in like 3 weeks, and all of a sudden it's going to be like,
hey, Jack.
Yeah, it's going to be like 5-star review. Hey, jackass, it rises in the west, sets in the east. Learn how the sun works, dumb butt. No, so I avoided that. I am a dumb butt, but for
you're not
totally different reasons. Hey, it's okay.
You're not dumb butt. No, stop that. You can't put yourself down like that. It's that's other people's job.
Yeah, that's the job of your family.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not a dumb butt. You're a smart ass.
I try to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, 12 minutes into the show. You know what I mean? You know what time it is, Krame? It is it's time for What's Hot with Krame Dog.
So while I've been watching countless amounts of film for the NFL upcoming draft, by the way, Combine, let's go. We got it. We're here. But I also been watching a lot of spring training baseball, and the ABS, the ball to strike system. It's an automated. They put that in the spring training this year. It's exposing a lot of umpires behind the plate of how truly bad they are. And there's if you are scrolling through X or whatever social media you use, there's one of the umpires is like, of course it's a ball after he called it a strike, so he got back onto him. And now the umpires are having fun with the ABS system. And it's wild that it's actually here. The AI robots are finally umpiring games behind the plate. And I love it. I enjoy it. But there's a lot of people right now that absolutely hate it, including a pitcher named Max Scherzer, former Cy Young.
Old Max doesn't like that he can't paint the edges like he once did and get the calls from the...
Yeah, and it's also because of how the catchers frame pitches. The pitch goes low with the catcher's glove, like pop it straight up like that, make it look like a strike. Yeah. Oh yeah, and that happened today. Happened today. Scherzer went like this to challenge it. It's a ball. It was like literally about this below the plate. So like here's the box. If you're looking at here, that far down.
Your boy played catcher. Yeah, I know. Yeah, man. It's all about framing. Framing's half the job.
Well, now with the ABS system, it's going to be hard to frame.
Oh, man.
It's a true dedicated strike zone for once.
That's insane. We are just one step closer to... Did you ever play growing up? I don't know. This might have been before your time. I think it was on the NES. Maybe it was SNES, but it might have been on the NES. It was called Baseball Simulator 1000.
Can't say I played that. It sounds pretty sick, actually.
It's the greatest baseball game that's ever existed.
Is it better than RBI for its time?
Yeah, for its time, because what it was is that it wasn't real baseball teams, unlike some of the other games, but each player, you could create your own player, first of all, back then, I'm pretty sure, but each player had their own special power, and so there were superpower pitches like tornado pitches, earthquake pitches, laser pitches.
So it's kind of like early backyard baseball almost.
Yeah, but it was like robots. Like some guys were robots. You played in outer space. You played like in the future. It was like baseball in the future, right?
Nice. Yeah.
And so that game was awesome. And so I feel like
sweet, actually.
And then there's another one called Base Wars. Did you ever play Base Wars on the NES?
Probably not. I didn't play much NES at all.
Yeah. I know this is all before your time. This one was baseball.
PS1 was my first game system.
Yeah, so this is old school. It was baseball back on the NES, but all the players were robots. And if you were going to slide into like third base and they were going to try to tag you out, instead of just tagging you out, it turned into like a Street Fighter 2 type of fighting game between
almost
two
like
robots.
Slugfest?
And you fought you fought to the death with your robot to see who was safe and who was out. And I feel like with this AI, we're one step closer to A, Baseball Simulator 1000 or B, Base Wars becoming.
Hey, we're getting there. At some point, we will get there.
Yeah. Like just give me like cyborgs pitching the ball. Like give me like I want a guy with like a robot right arm throwing the baseball 150 miles an hour.
There is a game out there that's not, I would say that's kind of like that, but Super Mega Baseball. Look into that. If you can ever find time to play video games, look into that.
Super Mega Baseball.
Yep.
And speaking of that, we'd like to thank today's sponsor of today's podcast, Super Mega Baseball.
I wish. That'd be sick.
It's kind of like Baseball Simulator 1000, but newer and not 40 years old. Super Mega Baseball.
That's fair.
Available all places where you play baseball games. So, but yeah,
no, that's what's top of Krame Dog.
Dude, I saw our old boy Jack hit his first jack.
Yeah, he's
spring training.
He Jack got a hold of that one. Oh, Kyle Leone. Yeah. He's going to be good.
Leone. Oh,
I think he's going to be a guy. I don't think he's going to be up here this year. I'd like to see him up here, but him and Vinny are going to be a nice little 1-2 punch.
Man, he hit a donger. Like he just jacked that ball.
Yeah, Jack did. He jacked it.
Jack jacked it. He jacked the crap out of it. But yeah, no, that was he's a lot of fun. He's exciting. He's exciting to watch. So your Royals, boy. The Royals are looking good. Another year. Make the playoffs again, maybe. Don't want to it's a long season. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's a lot of reason to be excited. A lot of reason to be excited in Kansas City.
It's gonna be fun
season. Yeah. That being said, Kramer, we do have a 5-star review this week.
We sure do have a 5-star review. This is actually coming from Colorado Chief. He says at the topic area, it says great content. So that you already know this is going to be a good post. 5 stars to be exact.
Obviously, have you been listening to this podcast so far?
Yeah, you're right. Content. So this is what Colorado Chief said. I really enjoy all the podcasts. I really enjoy getting to hear from all these guys after the AP podcasts were canceled. Glad we found a new home. Thank you. I look forward to the show and BK each week, especially. The post-game shows are a must-listen also. Brian's World is fun, and he has some good guests. The Daily Fix is awesome also. To the guys at Veach Season, keep up the good work. You guys are hilarious.
It's like I love it. Thank you, Colorado.
That's Chief. Awesome.
I love the specific call out. We truly appreciate you. We will try to keep up the good work and try to continue being hilarious. And I love that everybody else. It's like
let's get it straight. We don't try to be hilarious. It just happens.
Yeah. This is 100% by accident. This is just a mistake that somehow went right. It's like penicillin, right? Like we were like somehow we ended up being something good, but we were supposed to be a terrible mistake. I also like that we were at the very end of the thought process, and it was like, and to the half-wits over at Beach Season, just keep doing you guys. Like somehow it's working. We don't know how, but
we're not canceled yet again, so we're good.
Listen, with starting that opening thing, talking about grandma's piercing blue eyes, we're really pushing the brink there. We're trying to get as close as we can to the edge without being canceled yet. We're still like the only explanation, Krame, is that we're still flying far enough under the radar that nobody actually listens to us or knows what the hell it is that we're talking about. And they're just like, oh, Beach Season's the draft podcast. They're just talking about draft stuff.
We haven't mentioned a single thing about the draft yet. Beach Season, baby.
I disagree. We mentioned that it is the combine.
You're right.
This week.
I did say that in my And
we have not mentioned that we will be talking about the combine in today's episode, which, by the way, welcome to our big combine extravaganza episode. Where we'll be doing a combine preview and breaking down what to expect in the combine this weekend coming out of Indianapolis, and be talking about Brett Veach spoke to the media today, as so did Andy Reid, and so we'll be breaking down all of that for you guys and talking about some actual football.
But first, Rocky, I'm pretty sure we got a message from a dear poet of ours.
Yeah. So, but first, something more important.
Oh yeah,
for the actual purpose of this podcast, we did receive another entry into the annals of Chiefs literature from our resident poet laureate here at Veach season, Mr. Larry Quinn, deigned to bless us with yet another work from his beautiful imagination. And so I will now perform the newest piece by Mr. Larry Quinn. It is titled The Hunt of Brett Veach. The season has ended. The confetti has faded. But Brett Veach's fire, it's never abated. While others find rest in the off-season hush, he's lost in the chase in the all-season rush. He looks under rocks. He searches through clay. He dives through the stacks of the thickest of hay. The next hidden gem could be buried inside, and Veach will unearth him. His eyes are too wide. The film room is glowing with flickering light. He studies each step in the dead of the night. Canadian fields where the winds cut sharp. He listens intently. Can he hear a new harp? Down in Australia where 40 men dash, might one trade the oval for gridiron clash? A winger so fearless, a kicker so true. Veach watches with wonder. Could he wear red too? No league is too humble, no game too small. From backyard scrambles to rec league calls, the flag football legend with lightning fast feet could be the next to make arrowheads beat. The scouts shake their heads, but Veach only grins. For diamonds aren't found where the searching begins. They hide in the dark, they rest in the rough. And Veach, undaunted, will call every bluff. Through rain and through rumor, through whisper and doubt, he'll forge a new kingdom. He'll root the stars out. For when autumn returns and the war drums resound, the Chiefs will be ready. New talent they've found. I got chills.
That was good.
Chills.
That was so good.
It's covered in goosebumps. Oh my gosh. Mr. Larry Quinn, resident poet laureate of each season, you have outdone yourself this week, buddy. Keep dodging the Doge monster out there, as he says. He's been busy dodging the Doge. So keep dodging the Doge monster, bro, and keep working your magical pen. Your the official quill of the kingdom, Larry Quinn, everybody.
That was great. That was so. If you have a poet that inspired you to write a poem, feel free, send it to us. DM us on X or however you get a hold of us. Just DM it to us.
If we have an entire episode of nothing but slam poetry, like Veach season, the draft season podcast. Today we'll be reading 3 hours of slam poetry, of Chiefs themed slam poetry. 100%. We are 100% down. We'll do it. Like, you wanna write a Chiefs song and drop us the soundbite, or just if you just want to send us the beat with the lyrics and we'll try to sing it.
Yeah,
we'll do Chiefs karaoke of a song you wrote. We could do that as well.
No, yeah, live. Do it.
Yeah, live. Yeah, F it, we'll do it live. As Bill O'Reilly once said, F it, we'll do it live. That's how we felt when I woke up. That's how I felt when I woke up and I realized that we were supposed to be recording 30 minutes ago. F it, we'll just do it live. Who needs an outline? We just spend the whole time riffing anyway.
Yeah, we loosely followed that. You could clearly tell in the last podcast we just had.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we loosely follow it. So when we said Serta the rundown when he's later when he's putting this thing together, I'm just gonna say, well, we talked about football.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
We talked about football ish. But anyway, so should we talk about football ish?
I think we should probably. I mean, we had homework assignment, so I mean, we had to.
Yeah, we had to. So we'll start off by we'll talk. So Andy Reid and Brett Veach, both spoke to the media today. A lot of it was just general coach / GM speak that you expect to hear, talking about how like they disappointed how the season ended, but they're excited about the new season. They're excited about the possibility of a new year. Hope springs eternal in the spring, at the combine, and I think though, but we'll start off with Veach because, obviously this is his podcast. So we want him to be able to, go back and listen to this and know that we gave him the proper run that he deserves. Brett, we wish you were here, buddy, but we understand why you couldn't be down there, doing God's work at the combine.
Finding the diamonds in the rough. He's down there in the coal mine.
Yeah, down there in the coal mine, finding those diamonds in the rough, and those famous Indianapolis coal mines. And so we want you to be able to listen to this and feel like we did you proud and gave you the proper run that you deserve. So we'll start off talking about Brett Veach. So anything stick out to you from Veach's comments today, Krame?
Yeah, I found out that Keely Sumatia won't be a left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs team. It sounds like he's going to be moved to guard, and that's where he's probably going to be. His cornerstone is going to be. Even Brett on 96.5 mentioned that, and he said that he looks like he would be a really good guard. He has all the genetic makeup for being a good guard. After he said that, everything washed away. I don't even want to see. He won't be a left tackle. He just won't be. So that's what took me away from hearing some media comment stuff.
So
the biggest thing, at least.
Yeah. So a couple of things, ring like perked my ears up when he said that. The first thing is, of course, he's going to say he looks good as a guard because he knows he can't play him at tackle after last year. Like he's got the makings of a good guard because he's a failed tackle, right? And so you got to salvage it. But he did look pretty good at guard when he played there, at least serviceable, and you feel like he could develop into a pretty decent guard. But I feel like if you want to talk about playing like 3D chess or looking beyond the lines and seeing the actual game that's being played, I feel like also. Because Brett Veach also said that he feels optimistic about the Chiefs' ability to re-sign Trey Smith, and that they want to re-sign Trey Smith, but they got to talk to his agents and kind of see how everything goes and how everything plays out. But that they feel good about the possibility of them re-signing Trey Smith, once free agency begins. And then he says that about Kingsley, and so what I took away from that also is him saying we really, really want Trey Smith, but hey, Trey Smith's representation, don't try to rake us over the coals and hold us too far over the barrel, because we do have a backup plan to move on from him. So if Trey Smith wants to be a Chief, we're willing to, obviously pay him and give him a new contract, but we're not paying him top of market.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what his number and dollar amount is, because I've been seeing floating around he wants a 5-year deal. So, and he's one of the better guards in the league. I don't know if his number is going to come down a little bit because he got penalized more this year than he's had in his entire Chiefs career, I think. So I'm not sure if that's going to even factor anything, but I'm curious to see what he's actually going to get paid. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, that's a problem. On the open market, the Chiefs don't want to go against a bidding war on the open market because they're not going to like if it's just a straight flat out dollar for dollar bidding war, the Chiefs are going to lose 9 times out of 10, right? The only way that the Chiefs are going to be, because he was an all-pro, right? And he's young, He's prototypical size, build, attitude, mentality. Like penalties aside, Jawan Taylor got $20 million on the open market.
It's true,
right?
By the
you
Chiefs,
know what I mean?
By the wild, so wild.
By the Chiefs. That's what I'm saying. Free agency is crazy contract money, right? You overpay so much to lure a guy away in free agency and to get him that if it's just dollar for dollar, there's no way the Chiefs are able to pay him what other teams with more money and more desperation are able to pay. So the only way it gets done is if it's because he wants to stay in Kansas City and they're committed to getting something done. Because you can, and Brett talked a little bit he talked about the challenges of competing year in, year out, and how the NFL is designed to fight against, dynasties, right? Like there's a reason why you win the Super Bowl, you pick last, right? In the draft the next year. And if you win the Super Bowl, that means that you probably have a bunch of guys who are really, really good and the best of their position. So then you have those guys are making top of market money, right? And so not only are you picking last in the draft, but you also have a bunch of expensive players, and it's really hard to retain those guys and retain everybody and keep that core intact. And so I think with that, I think Brett Veach is sitting there, speaking between the lines to Trey Smith's representation, saying, "Listen, like." It's hard being us. It's hard to build a team. And at some point you have to make hard decisions. And we want to have Trey Smith back at a fair price. But if we can't get him back, we are prepared to move on with Kingsley as our right guard.
Ooh, I drafted a right guard rather than put Kingsley there. I wouldn't want to move from Kingsley from the left side to the right side. I know it may not be a big transition or anything, but who knows? Like maybe it's another thing that fails for him.
You're gonna move Thuney?
No, I don't want Kingsley starting. I do not want Kingsley to start.
Well, that's I don't think the Chiefs necessarily want Kingsley to start either, but I think that's what they're telling. That's what they're telling people.
Wild. That's
saying we're prepared to roll with Kingsley.
Yeah, that's okay.
As our starting right guard.
Insane.
In place of Trey Smith. We want Trey back, but that's our backup plan.
There's so many good guards in this draft. I think there's a lot of good guards in this draft.
There's so many good guards in this draft, and the Chiefs drafted 2 guards last year, right? I mean, there's a chance that
there's at least some depth. There's gonna be at least position fighting.
Yeah, there is. So at least be competition there. But I think that the Kingsley comments are directed directly at Trey Smith's camp. I also think that Brett Veach doesn't say anything by accident. And I think that everything that Brett Veach says
it's calculated
at the podium today is calculated, and none of it can be taken at face value. He said also went on to say, they said that the defensive side of the ball is the depth of this draft in their minds. And that, and specifically mentioned the defensive line, which we've talked about. There's some really good defensive line guys, some really good defensive tackles. Basically, there's 4 good defensive linemen from Ole Miss in this draft. Like Ole Miss's defense, you just pick a position and pick a guy, and you're like, yeah, if he's draft eligible, he's a pretty good player. Like their defense was insane last year, how good they were. I watched the Georgia tape yesterday, the Ole Miss Georgia, and they just their front 4 dominated, just destroyed Georgia. Like it looked like the Chiefs versus the Eagles Super Bowl game, how badly they just beat the shit out of the Dogs. Like Ole Miss 100% dominated that game. And Chris Paul Jr., old CP3's son, those NBA bloodlines. So those
that's legitimately his son.
That's legitimately his son. Yeah. So
wow.
So for those who don't know, so middle linebacker / outside linebacker for Ole Miss, Paul Jr. is Chris Paul, the NBA player's son.
I can't believe how I'm getting old. That's wild.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, bro. But you see those NBA bloodlines in the way he moves around the field. He's literally around every single play and gets off a block so well and just moves so well out there. And so Brett Veach goes out of his way to say that he thinks that the depth in this draft is on the defensive side of the ball. And he says with the defensive line, the secondary, and then the linebackers, there's a really good crew of guys there and that we really like. And that also, I think, was directed at Nick Bolton's camp.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, listen, like, we like you, but we're prepared to move on and take a guy. We still got Drew Tranquill under contract. We still got Leo Chenal under contract. It's not like we need 3 linebackers. We can find a 3rd linebacker. We like your leadership. We like what you bring to the table, but it's not like, Drew Tranquill started 8 games, right, at middle linebacker. So it's not like we haven't played without you, and it's not like we haven't won playing games without you. So I would not be shocked to see if the Chiefs went in a more athletic, because Nick Bolton is a lot of things. He's a smart player. He's a great downhill player. He's a great run defender. He's a great leader. He is not, his RAS score, his relative athletic score was not good. He's not an athletic player. He's not an overly athletic guy. He's undersized. He's actually kind of slow. He's
just a thumper.
He's a thumper, and he's a guy that relies on outsmarting the opposition and being the smartest guy on the field and being the first to read the play and react. And those guys in general don't age. Like they age well in the sense that they stick around for a long time because their savviness is able to keep them in the game, but they don't stay at their peaks nearly as long because when they fall off, it's a cliff. You know what I mean, right?
And I think injury helped with that, especially with Nick Bolton. Like, the injuries piled up on him, and I would have liked to see him. I don't know how much he's going to get paid in this offseason. And I don't think it's going to be much, but
no,
he's going to go somewhere. The Carolina Panthers might, maybe.
Well, and I think if the Chiefs do retain him, I think that the market for him is not going to be nearly as hot as some people think.
Right.
And that's why I think that you don't want to, if you're the Chiefs, you don't want to overpay Nick Bolton.
No, you don't need There's plenty of good guys in this draft that could be better than him or comp to him.
Yeah, and so we'll get our draft. Hopefully, we'll get our draft guru, our cap guru, Jared Sappa in here pretty soon.
We need some big brains on this.
Yeah, get our smart guy, our smart guys in here. I want to get our official legal correspondent James Todd in here for an episode to discuss the move between the stadium, the possibility of the stadium move later. So all that's going to be on the horizon very, very soon. But yeah, so I think that the Chiefs may want to bring back Nick Bolton, but I don't think they can't break the bank for Nick Bolton, even with the increased cap. The Chiefs have very little cap space.
It was like $10 million, right?
Not even that. Not according to John Dixon's current numbers.
So did the increased cap? How much did it go up?
So
do we even know yet?
So the problem with the increased cap was that it was already kind of expected by a lot of league officials. Like, it was kind of like, oh, the cap went up this much, and people were like, oh, it's an increased cap. But people in league circles were already expecting a number in that range anyway, right? And the Chiefs have a lot of money, already earmarked on the. So I think the Chiefs are only at like 6.5, even with the increased cap. They only have like $6.5 million of cap space right now.
Yeah, we need to talk to Jared. I mean, there's got to be ways to figure this thing out.
And so, well, one thing you can do is, you can convert what is it, like $20 or $30 million of Patrick Mahomes' money to bonus and free up cap space that way with kind of a wave of the pen. And there's a couple of guys you can do that with, and maybe Mahomes is the only guy that you want to do that with. Yeah,
maybe. What about Jawan Taylor? He might be a guy. Just pay him off. You're no one. He's just gonna be. He's gonna be like what DJ Humphries is this year. Play a handful of games and just collect $2 million. Like
the problem is that he has $20 million against the cap regardless.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He's $20 million guaranteed against the cap this year, regardless. So there's not a lot of easy answers for guys. but there's things you can do like extend Joe Thuney if you want to do him, and then you could lower his cap number this year. You could convert some of Chris Jones's contract to bonus, but then you're kicking that can down the road even further, and he's aging, right? He's not a young pup by any means.
Pricey next year.
Yeah, and then Travis Kelce, you don't want to kick any of his money down the road.
I don't think you can.
Well, you can, but then you're still paying him post-retirement.
Oh yeah, you don't want to do that.
If he retires after this year, you know what I mean, right? Like if you kick some of that down the road and you convert some of it to bonus, then you're spreading that cap hit out over the years, and then next thing you know, if he leaves after last year, you may still be on the hook for $12 million for a player that's not playing, right? And you see that with some teams that do stuff like that when they have poor cap management and they get themselves into these troubles. So you don't want to do that, which is also why I think the Chiefs aren't prepared to pay top of market for these guys. Even if they waive the pen and they say, okay, we'll kick the can down the street with Patrick Mahomes because we built the contract knowing every contract that Patrick Mahomes has signed to date, they built it knowing he's going to play out. He's going to be with the team throughout the length of those years. So It doesn't matter if they kick the can down the road. They also know that the value of quarterback is going to outpace the money in that contract. And he's never going to play out that entire contract before they need to restructure and re-sign and extend him and give him a raise in order for it to be fair to him by market value. That's what they did with this last 10-year contract. He didn't play out the years of his contract.
Who knows? What if he falls off a cliff? Like not him physically falling off a cliff. What if his just playing level just drastically declines? You think I'm
you see that happening anytime soon?
I hope not. I hope not. But you know what I mean.
Even
you never know, though.
Even if they sign him to another 10-year deal today, he's still going to be 5 years younger, 4 years younger than Tom Brady was when he retired. Just hear me out. Yeah. And so even if that happened, the Chiefs aren't going to cut Patrick Mahomes.
No, that's never going to happen.
Patrick Mahomes could play 5 terrible years of football, making $70 million a year, and the Chiefs aren't going to cut him ever.
I know that, but say this was his contract year. Say this was Mahomes' contract year. Granted, he'd probably get paid a lot because of what he'd done in the Super Bowl, getting teams to Super Bowl. But by his numbers and standards of what we've seen in his career, this is one of his worst careers, I think, starting in the NFL. Granted, they made it to the Super Bowl, so it's not like you can really take that away from him. But I think numbers-wise and eye test, he missed a lot of throws this year. It was not great.
I think that's grossly over-exaggerated.
It could be, but I'm just from what I've seen.
I think that if you look at the standard, first of all, of Patrick Mahomes versus other quarterbacks, it's not the same standard, and people don't hold him to the same standard as other quarterbacks. If other quarterbacks played football at the level that Patrick Mahomes played football, they'd say, "Oh my God, look at this awesome highlight play. Look how he avoids the pass rush. Look how he gets the ball out. Look at this throw he made." Like players make 3 of those plays in a season that Patrick Mahomes makes in a week, right? Like nobody else is held to the same standard as Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so, because he's the best. But also, Patrick Mahomes doesn't play the same style of football that he once did, or that a lot of other guys do. And he's out there playing chess while other guys are playing checkers. And he doesn't care about the stats at this point. He cares about moving the ball. He cares about winning football games. And I mean, the only stat that matters is how many wins does he have in his career? How many fourth quarter come from behind victories does he have in his career? Like I don't give a shit if he didn't throw for as many quarterbacks, throw as many yards as other quarterbacks, or as many touchdowns or whatever. I care about when I played that other team that day, was my quarterback better than their quarterback was, and did we win the game? And when the chips were down, did he find a way to win the game? And nobody in the history of football has done that like Patrick Mahomes has done that to date, which is why it was so jarring in the Super Bowl to see him and the entire team just completely shook. Yeah. Right. And it was jarring to watch because it's not what we're used to. Right. There was like make no doubt about it. Something needs to be fixed. Right. You know, because whether it is they came out flat, they didn't make the right adjustments, they got inside Mahomes' head. Obviously, the protection was terrible. Like we've rehashed all this a million times, but the Super Bowl was the exception, not the rule.
Biggest game of them all. You got to get it over. You got to get it close. At least it wasn't close.
Well, of course it wasn't close. Like the Chiefs literally got the shit kicked out of them, but that's one game over the course of a career.
True, but I'm actually very, very curious to see what he actually does this year. Because he knows to be played pissed off with piss and vinegar every single game. You know that. You already know that.
Well, Veach, when he was talking to the media today, made a little bit of a hint at that, where he was saying that part of the issue with Mahomes is that he's actually too smart and too good at this point. That he's seeing things out there that the defenses aren't even thinking about, like realizing that they can do. Like he's so far ahead.
You know what's scary? Remember when he got drafted, he couldn't read the defenses on the he couldn't read the defense, and now he's overreading the defense and seeing things that not many people see.
Yeah, that the own defense can't even see.
Yeah,
right. And he just needs to let it rip more. And so
trust that arm. He's got a cannon. He's just got to trust it.
He always has. He always will. And so I think that. I mean, I think you're going to see a petty Patrick and a pissed off Patrick. I think that
petty Patrick season. Let's go.
Yeah, which I think it sucks a little bit because we were robbed of like a top 10 wide receiver season and out of Rashee Rice, and fingers crossed he comes back full force. And then you have Xavier Worthy playing the way that he did down the stretch. And then Veach mentioned that they would like to, with it being non-committal, they mentioned that they would like to have Hollywood Brown back, which tells me one of two things also, Kramer, that if they don't feel like they're able to re-sign Hollywood Brown, they're either A, in the market for another wide receiver, for a third wide receiver, or B, they're going to draft a wide receiver again in the top 100, right?
Yeah.
And insanity alert, Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper, somehow due to their recency bias, and this is the only way I can explain this, that is recency bias, and these guys just got to continue to churn out content on a weekly schedule, and they just watch new guys and they're like, oh, I love this guy now, and they just forget about other guys, or they downplay the greatness of other guys. It's almost kind of like people do with Patrick Mahomes. They both have Luther Burden being selected outside of the first round now. Insanity.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah both have Luther Burden going.
Who's the first wide receiver that would be taken?
McMillan is still the first wide receiver taken, but they have Matthew Golden going ahead of him. They have
you know me, I'll take Bond over Goldman any day.
Yeah, and so it's craziness. And so I tell you right now, I said this on Twitter today. If it even gets to number 28, pick 28, and Burden's still on the board, you better damn guaranteed Brett Veach is jumping up and selecting that man. Like he's getting Luther Burden the third.
You should. Who's sitting at 28? They would trade with the Lions.
And they would trade with the Lions. And like there's no way that he's falling that far. The man Burden led the entire NCAA in receiving yards in 2023, and then he didn't have as good of a year last year in 2024 because they just didn't throw him the football. Brady Cook was, I mean, I'm sorry, Mizzou fans, Brady Cook sucked last year. Brady Cook was a shitty quarterback as an SEC level, and they literally used Burden as a decoy. Sad. Like they threw away from him so much. Like they used him as a decoy, and even
so that hurt his draft stock.
Even when he was being used as a decoy, he was still open, and they just didn't throw to him. Like it was insane. It was so. I hate the Mizzou Tigers because I'm a Jayhawks fan, but just as an analyst and like a draft guy, I'm a fan of Luther Burden III, and just watching the coaching malpractice of misusing such a talent last year was insane to me. And it was like I was just pulling my hair out when I was watching the tape, just being like, he's open, and you're throwing a wide receiver screen to the other side of the field. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, Drink was drinking something those days.
Man, Drink needs to lay off the purple drink.
Yeah,
that's what he needs to do. Jeez Louise. And so, but yeah, so if Luther Burden's there, the Chiefs are taking him.
I wouldn't take another wide receiver in the first round. There's probably be good defensive guys at round 31. That's going to be there.
They're not going to take a wide receiver in the first round unless it's Luther Burden.
But I also don't see the Chiefs trading up unless it's for a tackle.
Well, I think Brett Veach notoriously is a best player available type of guy. He wants that best player available to be in a position that he needs. But if that best player available is a wide receiver, I don't think he bats an eye at if there's a guy that slides down. That being said, I think his game plan may be to trade up for an offensive tackle. I think his game plan going into the draft may be, okay, I want to target Josh Conerly Jr. as our pick in the first round. If he's not there, maybe I want to target an edge rusher, throw a guy out there that you like, Landon Jackson, maybe a, Birch out of Oregon, like whoever, Shamar Stewart, which I wouldn't draft Shamar Stewart, so don't quote me on that. I don't think he's going to draft Shamar Stewart. I would not draft Shamar Stewart in the first round. Maybe whether it's a Princely, I'm not going to try to butcher his last name from Ole Miss. Yeah, from Ole Miss. One of their great four down linemen, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, something like that. Like maybe that's the game plan. But then, like what happened with Trent McDuffie is, oh crap, Trent McDuffie is still there. That wasn't our game plan, but Trent McDuffie's still there.
True, and
we're going to go get Trent McDuffie.
He's arguably the one of the best corners in the league right now. So,
like if you like Brett Veach's whole, like that's why with free agency, like a lot of Chiefs fans want the Chiefs to go out there and splash on like a huge names and like just go hog wild in free agency. And that's not Brett Veach's style. Normally Brett Veach will sign one kind of notable guy in free agency early, right? Like a Justin Reed or a Tyrann Mathieu or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he'll make a series of small signings to patch holes on the roster, right? So if they're not going to re-sign Nick Bolton, then they're going to go out and sign a linebacker. Not the best guy, not a top of market deal, not the best guy, a mid-range linebacker to a 1 or 2 year deal. And then they're going to sign they're going to re-sign a tackle or somebody like that to a small deal.
We always see that,
guys.
Yeah. Like kind of Mike Dana last year. Like they were trying to figure stuff out, bringing Mike Dana back. They brought they bring Wharton back. They brought Pennell back. They brought Noddy back. Like they literally brought that entire defensive line back from the offseason last year.
Exactly. And then you go into the draft saying, okay, all of our holes are filled. They're not upgraded. They're not great. We don't feel like super great about it, but we're not panicking. There's no panic button here, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's go into the draft and take the best available person, right? Now we can take the best available person and we can be true to our board without reaching. We say, okay, this is our pick. Here's our board. Who do we like here? Who's the best fit for what we want to do? Then from there, you're able to select your guys. And then after the fact, you'll see him do after the draft to say, okay, now that the draft is over, okay, now what do we still not feel good about? And what other holes are we looking to patch? Which is why they took Hollywood Brown. They signed Hollywood Brown last year after the draft. They signed Donovan Smith after the draft 2 years ago. Right. They said, okay, we didn't get the guy we wanted in the draft, but we still need a tackle. Okay. So let's go get Donovan Smith after the draft. Right. And so I think you see the Chiefs. So I think that's the game plan going into this, is that the Chiefs always want to draft. I think the Chiefs want to draft best player available in every single round. And they really, really hope that by the time they get out of round 3, those best players available are a tackle, a defensive lineman, and a linebacker. That's what I think their goal is. But if Luther Burden's there in the first round, they're going to say, okay, well, we'll sign a linebacker in free agency, and then we'll take a tackle in the second round, and then we'll take a defensive lineman in the third. It was one of our third round picks, right? And so, I mean, the Chiefs got 4 picks. The Chiefs only have like 5 picks right now, but 4 of them are in the top 100,
which is good.
Yeah,
and you can literally get a guy at 95, and he could be a difference maker on this team.
There's a decent chance that the Chiefs come out of this draft with 4 players, and that pick that pick 131 they maybe use to move up in the first round, right? That their last pick in the draft right now is pick 131. Maybe you package that 131 and that 31 to move up to 28 to get a Josh Conerly Jr. in the first round, right? To move up a little bit, and then with pick 63 or 62 or whatever it is now,
63.
Then 63.
Did he get moved up?
No, it should be 63, right? It should be 63. Yeah. So pick 63, then you take a defensive lineman or whatever else you want, and then or a linebacker like your boy Jalen Walker or Jihad Campbell or Chris Paul Jr., one of those guys. Mm-hmm. And then 66, you take best player available, which is probably going to be a defensive lineman, like maybe a Jared Ivey or an Elijah Roberts out of SMU.
Or an Alfred Collins.
Who's a nose tackle, right, out of Texas. But I think a guy like Elijah Roberts, we haven't talked too much about, has that Charles Omenihu inside-outside flexibility that they really, really like, being able to play a guy, we're talking 6'4", 285. He's a guy that you can play on the edge as an edge rusher, or you can slide him inside on passing downs.
Have you looked at much of Howard Cross third?
Dude, I love Howard Cross.
That guy is going to be he's a
Howard
unit.
Howard Cross the third was one of my guys last year, and I wanted him to come out because he had a better year last year than he did this year. I think he hurt his draft stock by returning back to Notre Dame for some NIL money a little bit.
But I respect it. I respect it. Yeah, but we're talking the guy is a championship wrestler, and it shows his functionality and use of leverage, angles, and hand fighting, and able to disengage is some of the best that you're ever going to see. Like he is so good, and he's so stout. Like Howard Cross the third, like if the Chiefs end up with like a compensatory pick later in the draft, then I think that he's a guy. If you take Howard Cross the third at 130, if you still have 131 and you take him at 131, I love it. I love it. That'd be nice.
Huge. It's a great pick. Howard Cross the third has literally been a draft crush of mine for going on 2 years now. Him and Trey Harris are like my and Emeka Egbuka. Like these are like, because they went back last year, like they were my draft crushes last year. So now they're just like carrying over into my draft crushes this year. And Howard Cross the third is a little bit, the afterthought on that defense now because of Riley Mills and because of Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback. And so Jack Kaiser, the linebacker.
Jack Kaiser, the linebacker. Dude's stud, by the way. I like him a lot.
He is a stud also, right? So like if the Chiefs end up taking Jack Kaiser with one of their picks in the 60s or 95 or whatever, however the board falls, I think that the Chiefs are trying to set themselves up to take those best players available. And so with also having the flexibility of wanting to maneuver. So even if they do get those compensatory picks, we could very well see them move those compensatory picks to help them move up to get a guy that they want and be aggressive in this draft. I think that Brett Veach is never shy about going and getting the guy he wants or moving assets to get the guy he wants. He talks about finding pockets of value, right? He always talks about finding pockets of value. And basically that just means like, hey, like if you see the board falling and you have 10 defensive linemen who are all rated the same on your board, like in a similar value, like say you have like between on your board, between numbers 50 and 65, 10 of those guys are defensive linemen and you're on the clock, you feel okay about maybe trading back.
Yeah.
Right. because there's a pocket of value there that you feel you're able to draw from. But if there's a run and you see that pocket of value quickly closing, there's 10 of those guys and you're 15 picks away, and then suddenly 8 of those guys disappear and you're 3 picks away still, you say, okay, this pocket of value is closing, but it's still good value. I'm not overreaching here because this guy is still, maybe it's pick 58 the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are picking at 63, right? So maybe it's pick 66. Then maybe it's pick 60. And there's 2 guys left that they like in that pocket of value because there's been a run on defensive tackles. Then he says, okay, this pocket of value was closing, but we wanted to get into this pocket, and we know that we can move in this pocket and
get into that pocket.
And we can get into that pocket. Or it's our turn, and we still feel good about this pocket. So let's move back 4 spaces because we feel like there's still going to be a guy that we really, really like in that pocket. And there's another pocket later in the draft that we also feel really good about, maybe running back, right? But we really like the running backs that are still going to be on the board in the 5th round. So we want to pick up a 5th round pick and move back a little bit so that we can hit that pocket also. And it's funny because Brett Veach talked a lot about running backs today.
They're drafting one. They're drafting one. I guarantee you they're drafting one. He said
you might have to draft 2.
Which that's a little far fetched. I wouldn't draft 2 clearly, but you could
not with Isaiah Pacheco still under contract. I wouldn't draft 2.
Right. You already have Carson Steele under contract.
Giving him the old Crocky J.
Yeah. But they only have 2, right? It's only 2. Is Prince only 2. On the practice squad?
Prince is on the practice squad. No, he may be a free. No, he's a free agent. Prince is a free agent still. I mean, they may re-sign him. But
just 2.
Because P. Ryan's a free agent and Hunt's a free agent. That being said, he mentioned that he feels like the strength in this draft is on the defensive side of the ball, but then the only offensive position he mentioned, he said, obviously it's a really deep running back class, and it is. It's a super deep running back class. And he said something really, really interesting about the devaluation of running backs. He said, he feels like guys like Saquon Barkley having an awesome year this year is going to help the valuation of running backs in free agency and help guys get paid more. And he used the words get paid more what they deserve, kind of acknowledging that the NFL is like, because running backs have been so cheap, nobody's wanted to be the first one to blink. And they're like basically like admitting that their value is depreciated and depressed, and they're not being paid what they deserve in the NFL. And said that he thinks this is going to come back around and running backs are going to be paid more what they deserve. But he also said that because running backs are undervalued as much as they are, there's a trickle down effect of that's one thing, but also because most GM's philosophy is you build the team through the trenches. You get your quarterback, which, by the way, Brett Veach is going to be a Hall of Fame GM, and he's the luckiest guy in the world that every year of his tenureship as GM, he said Patrick Mahomes. He never he gets credit for finding Mahomes, studying Mahomes, convincing Andy Reid and John Dorsey to draft Mahomes. But as a GM, he has never once had to worry about finding a quarterback. Like every year as a GM, he's had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, had to worry about everything else, because most teams' philosophy is you find the quarterback and then you build through the lines. You build through the trenches, offensive and defensive line, right?
Oh yeah.
So what he said today was, which I think is really insightful and a little bit like admitting like the way that the NFL views talent, and one of the flaws of the NFL viewing talent is that because you build your team through the trenches, and because running backs are viewed as being a little bit like a dime a dozen, that you'll have a guy, if you're a defensive lineman or offensive tackle or a cornerback or a wide receiver and you have awesome tape, you're going in the first 3 rounds, hands down, right? No matter what, you're going in the first 3 rounds. If you're a running back with that tape, you have to be a super, super, super exceptional player like an Ashton Genty to even be in the conversation, right?
He top 10 running back? Like you top 10, like getting picked, top 10?
Yeah, I think so. Top 15 for sure.
I think he's at number 9. I think he's gonna get picked there.
Yeah, probably. That wouldn't shock me. But what Veach said is that because of that, though, is that the reason why you're able to find so many like perceived diamonds in the rough or running backs late in the draft, like an Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, is that it's because everybody's selecting these big men early on. If you're a big man with great tape, you're getting taken really high in the draft, like right off the bat. But then if you're a big man with mediocre tape, you're getting taken in the middle rounds, and they're like, well, we like the traits, so we're going to try to like coach them up, and you're getting taken in the middle rounds when the top end running backs are being taken. So what happens is it just pushes the running backs down the line from being selected, where he's like, you could have 3,000-yard seasons and being taken in the 6th round just because a defensive tackle with mediocre tape who was, like 6'4", 315 was taken ahead of you, and he's like, because people need big men and they want big men. And so I thought it was super kind of telling on the GM community that he admitted that. But also it tells me that he thinks really highly of this running back class. And if they do have those compensatory picks later in the draft, he's going to spend one on a running back.
There's going to be at least a Pro Bowl running back in mid rounds. It's going to be a draft this year. There will be.
I think there's going to be at least, I'm going to say 3 guys who are 1,000-yard rushers in the next 3 seasons that are taken in rounds 5 or later this year.
I like that. I agree. I'd say 4. Give me at least.
Yeah.
You could. There's a good case for 5. There really is.
There is. Well, here's the thing: is there's even guys that are going to be like even if he's not 1,000 yards rushing, it could be 1,000 yards from the line of scrimmage. Like Trevor Etienne, from Georgia, like he's going to be taken in like the 7th round, and he could very easily be the next James Cook in the NFL.
That's true.
Taken by the right team, or the next Travis Etienne, right? Or Trevor Etienne. I mean, like his brother plays in Jacksonville and is a superstar. Like he very well could be the next stud, right? And so there's just you have Jordan James from Oregon. He's going to be he has the possibility to be like an Aaron Jones type of running back. I mean, like there's just so many guys out there that are going to be taken late in this draft.
I like him. Heck, I can even see Cameron Skateboo out of Arizona State doing something.
Yeah, oh man, he's gonna go in the top 100.
He's a little spark plug is what he is.
Yeah, he's gonna go top 100. I mean, Devin Neal from Kansas, my boy Devin Neal from Kansas,
real deal.
Devin Neal is he's gonna be a running back for over a decade in the NFL. Like he's a straight up stud.
He's good. Honestly, I've mocked the Chiefs a couple of times. So
have I. Oh my gosh, like
I think it's a perfect fit. It's like a glove.
If they take Devin Neal at 95, I think that's the perfect spot.
No, you'd cream in your pants. That happens.
I would cream hard. I'd cream so hard in my pants.
So hard.
Oh, so hard in my pants. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs approach this. And then Brett Veach also said it's going to be funny because right now you could have like, say for wide receivers, you say, okay, maybe there's 5 or 6 guys that they have in the top 100 wide receivers on their draft boards right now. He goes, but then there's going to be guys who go out there this weekend and run a 4.3 flat 40. And suddenly he goes from being number 150 on the draft board to number 86, right? Because he's a lot faster than they thought he was. And they see him in a new light than before. Or same thing with a cornerback, right? Like Xavier Worthy was a fringe first rounder because of where he was taken, but he was viewed as, like probably outside of the first round last year.
I thought he was a first round talent the entire time.
Well, here's the other thing.
I fell in love with Xavier Worthy. That I super quickly fell in love with Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
Or any of the white guys I mentioned last year.
Oh man, don't even mention the white guys.
They had good years.
Them who shall not be named.
Lad McConkey.
Here's the thing about also with like these like draft risers, right? Like you hear this every year, guys who are shooting up draft boards. There's actually really not a lot of guys shooting up draft boards and actual draft boards in NFL rooms. Like by now, the scout teams, like maybe the GMs haven't watched everybody and made their final decisions, but GM scout teams and the position coaches and like basically people's boards are 90% set before the combine. The combine's purpose is really measurements and medicals, and then they like to see the drills because they can get eyes on guys, but they're going to 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with what they see on tape over what they see running in shorts, right? Like what a guy does in his underwear.
They've already figured out what they want to do. This is just like the icing on the cake. Like this is a little sprinkle in extra little athleticism for me.
Yeah, what you're gonna see is like some guys who move up a little bit if they run a faster 40 time than they suggested, or guys who move down if they run a slower 40 time than they expected. But 90% of the draft board is not going to move because guys are already slotted in.
I bet we will see a lot of people move on the offensive line, especially during the cone drills.
Yeah,
I love watching the big boys do those.
Arm measurements are going to be big for guys who weren't at like the Senior Bowl or Shrine
Bowl.
That's
a given. We already know this.
Yeah, getting those arm measurements in are going to be a huge deal, whether or not they're viewed as a tackle or whether they're viewed as a guard prospect by NFL teams. But all this to say is that everybody talks about like risers and fallers and these draft heads and everything, even like myself. And all of that is really just content creation because people are trying to constantly churn out content, which is why Luther Burden's in the second round. Like
stupid.
Like if a team had a first round grade on Luther Burden, by the end of the season this year, nothing that happens in the combine is really going to change that.
Yeah, no.
Right. Like they're like they have their grades. They no matter what happens, these guys are pretty much set in stone for the most part by now. And anything that you see between now and then by like these draft heads is just them trying to figure out what they think the NFL teams are going to do and basically admitting to everybody that they got it wrong in the first place. And now they're trying to get it right, or they're lying to you about what they actually think. And they're trying to convince you for content's sake that this guy's now better and this guy's now worse. And all of this, when in actuality, there's really very little movement on these draft boards.
It's kind of like the clickbait thumbnails that we don't have. Thankfully, we don't do that. But you know what? Honestly, we should have a clickbait something for this titleless episode. So,
yeah. Is Brett Veach cutting Travis Kelce?
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Travis Kelce's coming back for another season. When he was already
kind of figured.
When he was already under contract for another season, the Chiefs nor him had ever made a public comment saying otherwise. And like everybody, two things. Everybody was looking at his age. Everybody was looking at his cap number, and they were saying, and then suddenly the Chiefs were putting an ultimatum on Travis Kelce to make a decision by March, blah, blah, blah. I'm calling bullshit right off the bat. A, because they wouldn't do that to a legend like that. That's not how the Chiefs operate. Nope. B, it would not have gotten outside of the building. C, it wouldn't have happened like that. It would have. Here's how it would have gone down: is they would have said, "Hey, Andy Reid would have called up Travis Kelce and be like, hey, Trav, he stopped by my office. I just want to have a talk with you, about a couple of things." They would have talked about his future together, and they would have made a decision between the two of them. It never, ever, ever in the history of this team, of Andy Reid and Brett Veach, have they taken a legendary all-time great like that and then just given him this ultimatum of let us know what you're doing by March 14th or we're moving on.
That's idiotic for someone to actually want to believe that. That's absolutely wild. It's asinine, actually.
Yeah, and I respect where that story came from and originated, but I'm calling complete bullshit on it. And so
where'd it come from?
Well, I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
I'll tell you off air. I don't want to say it on air because I do respect them as a journalist for the most part, and so we'll talk about it off air.
I'll take my tinfoil cap off then.
Yeah, we're not gonna trash them because we like them. Yeah, and so But yeah, so that being said, this has been a pretty good draft, a combine extravaganza. I feel like
let's continue next week. Let's continue the draft. Let's continue to do the draft stuff until the draft happens.
Yeah, we'll continue the draft stuff until the draft happens. We'll recap the combine for you guys next week. Before we get out of here, though, Krame, who's 3 guys that you're excited to see at the combine?
The TCU wide receiver Jack Beach. I kind of want to see what he can add more to what we already know, what he's coming from. Safety for out of Texas, Jahdae Barron. I fall in love with this dude. I think he could be an absolute force. I just want to see what he can do. Speed wise, I know he's not the fastest guy in the world, so I kind of want to see what he can do at the 40. Also, Teddy Buchanan. I want to see as much Teddy Buchanan as possible. You know this. I fall in love with Teddy Buchanan, and I hope he shows out at the Underwear Olympics.
Love me some Underwear Olympics. All I'm really hoping for is that we see another future superstar like Chris Jones trip and have his sausage pop out of his pants.
I don't want to. I'm good. I don't want to see that. I'm all right. I didn't want to see it the first time. I don't want to. Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I feel bad for Chris Jones that his dick is just all over the internet for all eternity.
At least it's not at least it wasn't. It was clearly accidental.
Yeah. At least it was clearly accidental. At least it was. I'd rather, I would like. At least it was accidental. I would say that
At least it's like Antonio Brown popping his lollipop out.
I feel worse for Chris Jones than I do for Grandma because she knew what she was getting too.
You're right.
When she
busted that together.
Yeah, when she busted out the old meat curtains for everybody to see. With that being said, we love you guys. Have a great week. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Be good to each other. Stay out of your grandparents' basement because you never know what you're going to find. We'll talk to you guys next week.